set map list, right? Set will not allow duplicates. Set will not allow duplicates. List allows duplicates. Map allows values to be duplicated, but keys cannot be duplicated. Values can be duplicated, keys cannot be duplicated, right? So in map, you can get value based on your key. You can get value based on your key. In a list, you need to iterate one by one. Even for set, it goes. You need to write for loop for set and map, set and list. You remember this way, you don't want to worry much. If you want to get data something from list or a set, you need to write a for loop. Okay. If you want to get a data from map, you need to pass a key to a map to get a value. You need to pass to a key to a value map to get a value. What are the methods we have in list? We have add method to add the data. We have size method. We have add method. We have size. These are the two methods we'll be using maximum in map. I mean list. Same two methods will be used in set. What about map? Map, actually you need to keep a value based on your key. So we instead of add, we'll use put key comma value. Put key comma value. If I want to get a value, get of key. You need to use a method get by passing your key. Clear on this? For map also we have a common method called size. Other than these, we have another two special methods for map. One is key set and another is values. I have a map which have a key value pair. I wanted to get only keys, not values. All keys I need to get it. That time I need to use key set, right? Key set means which will retrieve all the keys from the map. If it is a values, we'll retrieve all the values from the map. Clear, funny? Okay. So generally, this is the, I mean, this is very simple. We don't want to worry about much. We need to remember two methods for list and set, add, size. For a map, we need to remember put, get, key set, values. Four methods. Four methods, and those two methods is completely the collection model that you will be working in your entire lifetime of Salesforce. So there is no complex methods you have. They will be talking about so many things: deep clone, partial clone, full clone. I don't know what is this clone means, but whatever methods I will use, it actually does all this. That is for a concept they were talking about so much, but in real we'll be using only two to three methods. That's the maximum which will gonna solve all type of problems. It can be secure project or like a financial project backend, but you have to use those methods only. Okay. So if I am updating my data, if I want to automate some of the process, let's say if I'm creating one new account, if I'm creating a new contact, right? Whenever I'm creating a contact, if account title is not selected, I need to throw error saying that hey, title is required in order to create a contact, right? So how can I get all this? So generally we can do from a validation rules, but we are talking about a Salesforce Apex development. We'll be thinking that how to add errors. So funny, I think you have an idea of how to write a triggers, right? Okay, okay. So now what generally we need to do? We need to create a trigger on object. We need to create a trigger on object. Which object we need to create a trigger? Where user is performing an action. Where user is performing action in this case? Contact. User is performing his action on contact. Right now I need to create a trigger. To create a trigger, developer, while converting lead also we need to have validation rule, right? Business process. No, that's one of the way that contact is getting created. There are so many ways business process contacts will create normally also. It is not really needed that lead only need to create it as a contact. No, we can actually create our new contact based on the demands. You can come back, you can click new and you can create. That's the one of the business process in Salesforce. That's it. It's not like a compulsory one. So now we need to go to developer console, file, new Apex trigger. So my trigger name is contact. Contact trigger is my trigger name, and you need to select your object name. What is the object name here? Contact. Ensure that contact, there is another object called contract. Spelling looks same. So never get confused. Contract. So here you can see trigger, contract trigger on contact before insert. So how many types of events you will be having when performing a DML operation? How many types of events you will be having while performing a DML operation? Okay, so insert, right? Update, delete, and delete. Upset is just a combination of delete and insert and update. So that won't be a separate DML operation. For a system, it only the four actions called insert, update, delete, and delete. So in Salesforce, we have a events called triggers. Having an events called triggers are of two kinds. Triggers are of two kinds. One is before triggers, and second one is after triggers. So for insert, again Salesforce is classified, trigger events is classified before insert, comma, after insert, before insert, comma, after insert. Same way we have before update, comma, after update. For a delete also we have before delete, comma, after delete. For undelete, we have only one event called after undelete. For undelete, Salesforce is providing only one event called after undelete. So whenever I'm updating or inserting data, generally we have two types of data, old version of data and recent version of data. Whether you modify or not modify, if you click edit button, system will think that there is two values. One is old data and one is new data. As same as within the validation rule, we have a prior value, isn't it? In validation rule, we have a prior value. Same thing, prior value in the sense, what is the value before to this field? Same thing here also we have old information and new information. But because this is a trigger, it will work for a multiple records together. It means that it works with a collection of data. So here we have in trigger.new insert, we'll be having trigger.new, comma, trigger.new map. Trigger.new, comma, trigger.new map. Trigger.new means list of contact. Trigger.new map means map of ID, comma, contacts. It's just a data format different, but data is correct. For insert trigger, do you think that you will be having old data? If you are creating for a first time, you have a old data, so it means that you do not have a old information for a triggers. I mean insert trigger. For a update, you have trigger.old. You have old information followed with trigger.new, and you have a trigger.old map, comma, trigger.new map. For update trigger, you have all the information both new and old, isn't it? For a trigger dot DML operation for delete, you will be having trigger dot old, comma, trigger dot old map. For a delete, you don't need a new version. It's just always the same version. So you can write old only. Trigger dot new. This is the data which is available. This is how the data will come up into your objects. So clear on this? After delete means whatever data is coming, it will be treated as same as the insertion only after insert. Old data is not there in that particular contact object. It is there in recycle bin, right? Which is for a contact object, it's a new data anyway. Uh, ID and all will be same for a undelete operation, but see, account contact object will treat it as a new data because this is coming from some other objects. Might be it is there in Salesforce, but not in the same object, right? Clear? Now, my scenario is that whenever user started creating, if we select first name and last name, and if we don't select a title, I need to throw error saying that to user title is required in order to save the record. Title is required in order to save the record. If I say Mr. If I say Mr. or if the salutation is not, I mean, is required selected, then I need to throw error saying the title also is required. So for that first we need to worry about this way. Let's say I'm doing this. I'm creating one more Apex class called contact trigger handler. So you are not, the another reason in Salesforce is that you are not allowed to write multiple line of code inside within the trigger. You need to write your Apex classes and you need to invoke those Apex classes from the triggers. Okay. You need to write your functionality within the classes and then you need to call those methods in the triggers. So that's the best practice Salesforce recommends. Okay. Now this is my class. Now I'll say that contact validation on before insert. So you can do a validation always before inserting a database, right? So there is no point in doing a validation after inserting. So you need to query, again you need to verify all the changes, which is not needed. To reduce the system weight, you can actually do all your validation before the record save. How much as you possible. There are some validation rules you need to do validation at a server level. I mean at the database level. There are some validation where you can do at a user level instead of saving, right? Clear? So I'll create a method here. Public void before insert is my method. So for before insert, what and all data you have? Both trigger.new and trigger.old map. So in trigger.new map is not needed for me. I can use anything. That or this. In this case, I'm using list for a simple reason. Again, funny, there is no logic in using list and there is no logic in using map. Once you started practicing more and more, right, you will automatically move from list to map. You will understand that flexibility. But telling both are same. List will take another for loop, map will not take much for loops. That's it. Contact and then trigger new. Trigger new is just a variable name now, right? This is just a parameter variable name. It is nothing to do with save. So it got saved. Now what we need to do? We need to verify. So I trade the list of contact to check the title. We need to iterate. Iterate in the sense for loop. What data we need to iterate? This one, right? What is the data type for this? Contact is the type they are referring to. List of type. Con is a variable name. Colon. This is the for each syntax we need to use in Salesforce. This is the syntax we need to refer in Salesforce for each block. Not in Salesforce, any oops concept for each is same. Now what I need to check? I need to check whether my salutation is filled or not. Right? What I am saying, if salutation is filled, then only I need to throw error. So I don't know what is salutation API name. I'll go to contact SOAP API. I'll open my document and I'll verify whether the field exists or not. What happened? Control F. Salutation is my object type. So what I will check, if con.salutation con.salutation not equal to null. Con.salutation not equal to null, and con.title equal to null. Whether title will be null, because this is the text field, you will be having blank. And then con dot title dot, we have a method called add error. ERR add error. TITLE title is required once you select salutation. Once you select salutation. Now I need to call this method within the trigger. Let's say we have before insert. I can also have after insert. After insert. Now I need to call this method only before insert, right? I need to identify this. We have a trigger context variables here. We have a trigger concept called trigger context variable. What variables? Trigger context variables. What are the trigger context variables? Trigger dot is before, same. Trigger dot is after. Is before means if it is a before trigger, is after trigger. And then the same way trigger dot insert, comma, is update, is delete, comma, is undelete. These are the trigger context variables we have. Now if I want to check only for a before insert, that time I need to use if. I need to write a code block. Trigger dot is insert and trigger dot is before. Trigger dot is insert and trigger dot is before. Now I need to call this method, right? Whether this is a static or a non-static. How to call your non-static methods? You need to create an object, right? Uh, Here, what is my object name I used here? Not obj. Handler is my object name. Handler dot before insert. Instead of trigger new, I need to use trigger dot new. Trigger dot new will contain all the data from a contact object columns. Contact object columns. I saved it. Now I'll try to save. Deepak, save. It got saved. Why? Now we'll check why it is happening. Select ID, comma, name, comma, salutation, comma, title from contact where ID equal to, this is the record. Ideally, my expectation is that title should be single quote and salutation should not be null. Correct only, but still it is executed. Why? Not equal to null, and this is blank. Are you serious about it? Clone? Yes. There we use empty string, but the data is not there. It's a null value, so you are getting error. Clear? Funny, are you clear on this? Okay. Yes. Uh, no, salutation, there is something, another field, Mr., Miss, can't title. User is selected this, but is not selecting to fill this. So I'm throwing error. Title also required. Whenever you select this one, then only title required. If you don't select, then title is not required. But here we have two fields. My salutation and title is different. My salutation is Mr. My title is Inukurti. Yeah, yes, last name you can say like this also. Salutation is that one. I don't know. Don't worry about this field grammatical words. Let's worry where we'll be thinking about only these fields, how the logical differences. Okay. So now I want you to write a trigger right away